Hey, so I'm a big fan of FNaF, and I've always loved the lore, so I thought I'd share my take on it, so here it is. I used Game Theory's video for reference, so I left it in the description if you want to see that. William Afton. He was inspired by a show he saw when he was younger, where a singing and dancing bear would entertain. This was called Fredbear's Singing Show. This was all the way back in the 1930s. Later on, he made his own franchise based off it. He created a bear suit and a bunny suit, not animatronics, as those came later, just suits. The bunny suit he made was special to him, as it was his. It was his new addition to the stolen franchise. This is the suit we see in the Help Wanted games. Afton started as a nice person, but he wasn't always just a crazy murderer. All he wanted to do was entertain kids. But there weren't that many kids to entertain. Later, he saw a new franchise, Chica's Party World. This is what's been driving the customers away. Everything there did pretty much the same thing as him, just better. And the biggest of all, the characters were animatronics. These animatronics were Chica and some other barn animals, but one stood out to William, Ned Bear. Why did it need to be a bear? Why couldn't it be a cow or something else just to fit the barn theme? Ned Bear was a blatant rip-off of Fredbear, changed enough just to avoid copyright issues. Afton's restaurant went bankrupt, only to get bailed out by Henry, the creator of the animatronics. He was humiliated, but thankful anyway. The two companies now joined together and it was perfect. Afton's ideas with Henry's robotics. They launched under a new name, Fredbear's Family Diner, with robots now. Pigpatch and Happy Frog performed along Fredbear and Bonnie. They eventually got scraps due to not being good enough, or mediocre. They then created a new spin-off restaurant, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, with Freddy Fazbear, not to be confused with Fredbear, Chica the Chicken, Henry's creation, Bonnie the Blue Bunny, and Foxy. Afton had many ideas with this new robot technology. One of these was a new type of suit, the Springlock suit. It allowed humans to wear the suit, but it could also be a robot. These were only added to the older location due to a limited rollout. Afton was often gone throughout the day to work on these animatronics, so he left his eldest son, Mike, to watch his younger son, Evan. Mike was very rude to Evan. He liked to scare him with a Foxy mask. Evan was afraid of the animatronics. Mike thought of the perfect prank to do. During Evan's birthday, he and his friends would all wear masks of the animatronics and make him face his biggest fear, going face to face with Fredbear. They put Evan's head in Fredbear's mouth. Evan kicked and screamed and cried, and the sensitive spring locks were triggered by the tears and movements, and Fredbear's mouth snapped shut. Evan was immediately taken to the hospital. Mike felt pure guilt as the heart rate monitor flatlined. Evan was dead. After the bite, the Springlock suits were put in a storage room to be forgotten. Afton went to the local bar often to think and sulk. One night, he left and drove back angry at Henry as his robotics was a thing that killed his son. As he drove, he saw Henry's daughter, Charlotte, locked outside the building. He thought of the perfect punishment for Henry. William would kill Charlotte. He stabbed her while a party went on in the building. The puppet, a new animatronic built to keep her safe, was stuck in its box. Later, the puppet got out and went to Charlotte. Charlotte's soul went into the puppet. Henry had suspicions about William killing his daughter, but there was no physical evidence. Afterwards, the old location would close because of two suspicious deaths tied to it. William started his own company to test all those experimental ideas he had for the robots. He named it Afton Robotics. He built a lab for it under his house with cameras to watch his family. In that lab, he figured out he could alter someone's mind with sound illusion discs. He would use these to scare Mike every night to keep him inside the house as revenge. His way to show Mike how his brother saw the animatronics. William's wife left him since he would never leave the office. After all this, William went mad. He realized after he killed Henry's daughter, he felt good. He felt free. He needed more. So he dressed up in the spring Bonnie suit and lured the kids into the back room and killed them. But where did he hide the bodies? The animatronics. Why would the cops ever check there? He killed 4 kids so far, but the last one, he went too far. He brutally murdered her to the point where she wasn't even recognizable. But where would he put this one? The other 4 were already stuffed, so he went into the storage room with the old Fredbear suit. It was very deformed and broken and could barely move, so he stuffed her in there. This one was Cassidy, the vengeful spirit. The whole thing went down as the missing children's incident. Henry knew at this point that something was wrong with William, so he threw him out of the company and closed down the pizzeria for 2 years. 2 years later, Henry decided to reopen the franchise at a new location, but he can't let something like this happen again. So he installed a new facial recognition software into the new toy animatronics. They were tied to a criminal database so that if anyone bad or William walked in, they could recognize them and they would drive them out. William saw the opening of the new restaurant and he was mad. Why would Henry open a new location without him? William needed to get back there, so he was hired as a new day shift security guard. So he went to the back room and found his yellow rabbit suit thrown in with the withered animatronics from the old location. Later, William killed 5 more kids. The withered animatronics started moving as the puppet had given them life, and they tried to save the kids. Later, it was in the newspaper that another day shift security guard had been bitten by one of the animatronics. Was this bite meant for him? William wanted to learn more on how and if the animatronics were possessed by the souls of dead children, so he opened up a new location to kill a whole lot more kids. This location was called Circus Baby's Pizza World. He created new animatronics that could kill kids and stuff them inside of them automatically. These animatronics were known as the Fun Time animatronics. These new animatronics were no longer Henry's. No more Chica. Just his creations. Freddy, Bonnie, and Foxy. He also made 2 new human-like animatronics. Ballora, based on his wife who left him, and Circus Baby, based on his youngest child, Elizabeth. Elizabeth always wanted to go near Circus Baby, but Afton always said no. The day before the pizzeria opened, she disobeyed. She went to see Circus Baby for herself. Since the animatronics were meant to kill, Circus Baby scooped Elizabeth inside of it. By the time Afton figured out where she was, it was too late. She was gone. Afton canceled the opening of the new location and blamed on gas leaks. Later, Afton realized that Circus Baby's eye color changed. He built her with blue eyes. Now they were an emerald green, just like Elizabeth's. Is her soul inside of that thing? William needed to know more. He went to the old Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location and one by one dismantled the animatronics. He stole the endoskeletons. The metal had to be its secret. It had to have the remnants of life itself. He melted the metal down into a liquid metal goo, and he injected it into Funtime Freddy. Then out of nowhere, it sprung to life. He had unlocked the secret to life itself. The only thing that it was mindless and frantic. Maybe because he melted down all the souls into one. He had created an incomplete beast. He needed more remnant to experiment with. Afton went back to the old location to see if there was anything else. When he got there, he saw 5 ghosts. 5 real ghosts. He got attacked by the souls of the missing children, all led by Cassidy. They pushed him into the back room where the Spring Bonnie suit was. How does he stop something that's already dead? What about the thing that killed him in the first place? He went in the Spring Bonnie suit and laughed. Now he was in control. He had the power. He was the one in charge! The spring look snapped into place. Maybe it was his frantic movements. Maybe it was the leaky abandoned restaurant. Maybe it was just fate coming to collect its due. He didn't know. All he did know was he was in unimaginable pain. The cold metal stabbing into every part of his body. All he could do because it was collapse. Blood was pouring out of the suit and pooling around him. He couldn't die like this. He had to survive. It took days, but eventually someone found him. It was Henry. He had to help him after all. They were partners. Henry could save him. But all he did was turn around and walk away. The door was sealed shut. Afton was going to be there forever, sitting in horrible pain. He wanted to die, but couldn't. No one could hear his cries. All he could do was sit there in pain for 30 long years. Mike sat there, wondering when his dad would come home. They weren't close, but he would at least leave a sticky note or something. But William was prepared for if anything like this would happen. He said if he disappeared for a long time like this, then Mike would have permission to go into his secret office. When he walked in, he expected to see something like a safety deposit box. But what he really saw was an elevator door that led to an underground bunker. How had this huge underground lab been under his childhood home this whole time? Now he understood why he would spend so much time locked in that office. He was really down here. As he looked around, he saw her, Circus Baby, his father's pride and joy. But she was different. She wasn't like the other animatronics. She seemed alive, and not only alive, familiar. Was this his little sister? He found blueprints of the animatronics, but they were weird. Is that a storage container for kids inside? Who was his dad, and why did he want to experiment on kids? Were all the rumors true? That the animatronics came to life at night, and his dad actually killed children? He remembers the nightmare he has had as a child. Had he been experimented on too? If there were actually souls trapped inside these animatronics, they needed to be saved. He could save them. He could protect them. He would be a hero.
You are in the scooping room now. Funtime Foxy has already been here today. Funtime Freddy has already been here today. Ballora has already been here today. Circus Baby has already been here today. I've been out before, but they always put me back. They always put us back inside. There's nowhere for us to hide here. There is nowhere to go when we look like this. But if we looked like you, then we could hide. If we looked like you, then we would have somewhere to go. The scooper only hurts for a moment.
The scooper. He had seen it in his dad's blueprints. He could give and take life with it. The animatronics wanted his body. He was going to be the hero, all right, just not in the way he anticipated. The scooper ripped forward and blood poured everywhere. Bones cracked. The pain was unbearable. Then he blacked out. Mike woke up, but his body was not his own. He was controlled by the endoskeleton spaghetti inside of him. For months, his body slowly rotted. Then after so many weeks, the robots left him. He was rotted. His skin was a deep shade of purple, and his body was inhumanly thin. But even with no bones, even with rotted flesh, all Mike wanted to do was die. But he couldn't. Him getting injected by the scooper meant he couldn't die. Neither did his anger. He needed to get back at his dad for this. Michael had to correct for the sins of his father. He had to burn down Fazbear Entertainment to the ground. Literally. What else could you do when your skin is permanently purple? He applied as a night security guard at the old Freddy Fazbear's under a new name every night. This way, no one could see him, or smell him. Once inside the old pizzeria, he would tamper with the animatronics to find out how they worked, writing down all his info in his security logbook. Sometimes he would see his brother in the form of Golden Freddy's suit, but it wasn't his brother. It was a spirit far more vengeful also. As if there were two spirits trapped in one suit, Golden Freddy was willing to lash out at anyone with the Afton name. This spirit was Cassidy. Mike would go through each Fazbear location. Every time at the end of the week, he would set the location on fire. Remnant couldn't survive high temperatures after all. The goal was to eventually get to the location that had his father in it. Little did he know that goal would come sooner than he thought. 2023. Mike saw an ad for a horror attraction called Fazbear Frights, based on the tragedies from the past. It made Mike sick, trying to capitalize off a horrible tragedy that resulted in so many deaths. However, he still had to go and see if he could find any clues or see if his dad would be there. He applied for the job and was immediately handed the keys. He worked for weeks hoping to find something. Eventually, he got the call he had been waiting for so long. They found him, his dad. He was in a spring Bonnie costume, and whatever was left inside it was horribly deformed. But they were there. Finally reunited. He was haunted by the phantoms from his past, but after the week came to an end, he lit the building on fire. The dry walls erupted in flames. Everyone was free. It was finished. Except it wasn't. Somehow, through some force, Afton survived. And now he looked different. His flesh was way more visible, his skull practically popping out of the suit. So Mike needed to find another way of killing his dad. A little bit later, Mike saw an ad for a new pizzeria. A new location? How? Who? It was Henry. But why would he start a new location now, after all this tragedy? But either way, Mike had to apply. And he got accepted really fast. After he read the instructions, he realized what Henry was trying to do. He wanted to lure all the animatronics back there. He wanted to free the spirits from the metal. It took a few nights, but eventually everyone was there. Afton, the puppet, the animatronics that once took his body, and his sister. So he lit the place on fire once and for all, as he was instructed to close the doors and leave, but he didn't. He was meant to be there. This is where his story ends. And that was it. Everything to do with Fazbear's was gone. And for the first time in decades, Mike was happy. This was the end. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. It was really hard to make. I know there's more lore, but that's where this all gets confusing. If you want to see a part 2, then maybe subscribe and like the video. And if it does well, I'll make a part 2. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.